Hey, folks, by now you probably have already seen videos of the Munk debates out of Toronto, which featured Mehdi Hassan and Gideon Levy on one side, and Douglas Murray and a British lawyer named Natasha Hausdorff, who did a great job at debunking the anti-Israel and I would call jihadist and anti-Semitic claims. Now, just to get a flavor for what happened there, I want to play you one amazing clip in which Mehdi Hassan, who is really a virulent anti-Israel guy, made claims about the Balfour Declaration and Lord Arthur Balfour himself. Check this out.
In 1917, over 100 years ago, Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, a card-carrying anti-Semite, a man who had denounced the evils of Jewish immigration into the UK, a man who referred to Jews as an alien and hostile people, he issued his Balfour Declaration, which promised a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine.
Thank you. I'd like to use my time to do some fact-checking.
So she's going to fact-check this quote that he made. He just basically said that this Balfour is like a big anti-Semite. So he's just like doing this thing to throw the Jews into a different land, get them away from here, and he hates the Jews. And he denies the real story of Arthur Balfour, and that he was a Bible-loving, pro-Israel, pro-Jewish people, foreign minister in the British government, and that he had an amazing vision for the reinstatement and restoration of the Jewish people in the land of Israel, and that he came from these amazing motivations. Instead, Mehdi Hassan made a quote that basically damned Arthur Balfour to be this big anti-Semite, as they say over there in British accent. Let's take a look what British lawyer Natasha Hausdorff had to answer these claims.
I only have 3 minutes, so we'll see how far I get. But first of all, Balfour. We heard him quoted to you earlier, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let's be clear about that quote and what was changed, or at least misrepresented, because I think this is going to give a really strong indication for what is coming out of the opposition as a whole. We were told he'd referred to Jews as alien and hostile, in fact that he was therefore an anti-Semite. Well, I'm going to read you out the quote, and you make up your own minds. He said, "Mitigate the age-long miseries created for Western civilization by the presence in its midst of a body which it too long regarded as alien and even hostile, but which it was equally unable to expel or absorb."
So basically, I mean, it's almost comical. I mean, what's amazing is how was she able to find that quote after he used it? I mean, it's amazing. But basically, she laid bare the fact that Mehdi Hassan just totally misrepresented a quote. He took a part of a quote where Balfour was talking about the problem of anti-Semitism, and then she put it into his mouth as though he was being the anti-Semite. So Mehdi Hassan really showed himself to be, very dishonest, and that's part of what the jihad does. They make up things, they take away things, they deny things. Now let's get to a more substantive discussion where Natasha Hausdorff lays out modern blood libels, and here I'm going to like some of them, but maybe a little bit disagree with others. So let's take a look at some of the rest of that discussion.
You don't have to support Zionism, but if you are anti-Zionist, if you are against the Jews having a state, you are against the Jews. Mehdi Hassan is lying about what Zionism is, and in an attempt to win this debate and to provide cover for his own anti-Semitism, we usually hear a series of lies spewed by anti-Semites and anti-Zionists in an attempt to justify their anti-Zionism, and these are the modern blood libel. They are widely believed as the ancient blood libel, that Jews killed Christian children to use their blood for religious ritual, as widely believed and as false. I'm going to take you through 4 blood libels that anti-Zionists rely on. Number 1, the libel of colonialism. Israel is the ultimate decolonization success story. Against all odds, after Arab imperialism, Islamic conquest, and British colonialism, The Jews indigenous to Judea re-established Israel. My family lived under Ottoman and then British colonialism in Jerusalem long before Yasser Arafat, who was born in Cairo, created Palestinian national identity in the 60s. Number two, the libel of ethnic cleansing.
All right, let me just pause this for a second and say that she made these points very quickly, but the indigeneity of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is a very central point. And she said that the modern blood libel is colonialism. She's right. But I would say that the more used word out there that we should all understand is the modern blood libel is occupation. Occupation means really you're holding onto land, not yours. And I made those points on Piers Morgan that really we are the indigenous people of this land. We're an ancient peoples in this land. The international community recognized us as the indigenous peoples of this land. The archaeology proves that we're the indigenous peoples of the land. And she said it very quickly, but it's very true and important to say that the other peoples, they're the real occupiers. They're the real empires that come and go. And they're the ones that don't belong here, are not from here. And by the way, spiritually speaking, the land did not give its fertility to these other nations that came here. It waited for us. And so, and it's, of course, it's important to also say it's our God-given land. The Bible recognizes it. The Christian texts recognize it. The Muslim texts even seem to have, 4 verses that seem to say that the Jewish people belong in this land. We are the epitome of an indigenous people. And as my friend Ari Abramowitz says correctly, there's probably no other people that has such a claim on a piece of land. But out there in the world, the big word is not just colonialism, but it's occupation. We got to know to debunk that word. And I want to say that it's very important that I teach this in groups all the time. The simple thing that everybody's got to know how to say is it's our land. You just got to say it's our land. You got to be able to say that without equivocations, without self-doubt. You got to be able to say land of Israel belongs to the Jews. She said it in so many words, Jews are from Judea, it's our land, but we got to be able to say it so clearly and without any little hesitations. We've got to be able to say it's our land. This is our land. It's ours. And you're the ones who are trying to steal it. That's a very important point. So her first point, I must agree, is colonialization. I also want to use the word occupation.
In 1948, when 5 Arab armies and the local Arab population attacked the fledgling state of Israel with the stated intention of annihilating its people, 700,000 Arabs escaped the fighting. Those that remained became Israeli citizens. The Arab population of Israel has increased tenfold. This is ethnic cleansing? No. Ethnic cleansing is what happened to the Jews in 1948 when Jordan occupied the West Bank. Ethnic cleansing is what happened to 850,000 Jews expelled from Yemen, Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, where they'd lived for thousands of years. Ethnic cleansing left Arab countries Jew-free. Meanwhile, 2 million Arabs live in Israel today. Number 3, the libel of apartheid.
All right, so let me just pause that for a second and just talk about that. So ethnic cleansing, that is a blood libel. It is not true. It's not true. We simply did not ethnically cleanse the Arabs. Some Arabs did leave. Some Arabs definitely left. But a lot were left, and today there's a lot of Arabs in this land. So that is a blood libel. But here's where I start to kind of have issues with the more liberal type of argument. I think that when it comes to jihadism, people who hate Israel, we should get rid of them. And I think it's important to say it. I'm going to use this platform to say it. I think we should get rid and not have people who hate our country and hate this land and hate Jews live in this land. It's a problem. So, yes, she is 100% accurate and correct in saying that ethnic cleansing is a lie and it is a blood libel. But to some extent, I think that we should be careful not to hamstring ourselves by being like, look, we've never kicked out anybody. Well, we should kick out people who want to destroy us. Yeah, we really should. Haters, of course, pro-Israel, non-jihadist Arabs that want to stay here and live here should have a pathway to a life, to normalizations, to decencies and upward mobilities and rights, certain rights. But we have to be careful when we talk about, being proud of leaving them all here. Yes, but we should not leave the haters of Israel in this land. We should make sure that they find a way out. And right now, there's a lot of people that would love to have refugee status in different countries and leave Gaza because they were part of the war against us, and now we're warring back at them. So maybe they could find a home in Scotland, in Brussels, in Australia, in Spain, in Canada. And so we should help haters leave this land. Let's keep going.
Those Arabs that remained in Israel are now 20% of its population, the only free Arabs in the Middle East. They are represented in every area of Israeli society as mayors, army officers, police commanders, members of parliament and the Supreme Court. I served under Salim Gibran, who put both an Israeli prime minister and a president in jail. And those who propagate the lie of apartheid seek to conflate Arab citizens of Israel with Arabs living under the Palestinian Authority, who have an autonomy and should be voting for their leadership. But President Mahmoud Abbas is now in his 19th year of his 4-year term. Number 4.
So apartheid is, again, this is exactly the same thing where I have a problem with the liberal approach to Israel. Certainly, she is absolutely right. Natasha is absolutely right. There is no apartheid in Israel proper. There is no apartheid in Israel proper. At the same time, she distinguishes between what's happening in Judea and Samaria, that's the Arabs living under the Palestinian Authority, that Israel helped create. And she says, well, they could vote for their, a government that is not letting them vote in so-called the Palestinian Authority, which is the predecessor to a full-fledged Palestine on our land. And I would just be ashamed of that. I would be ashamed of the fact that Israel helped create a proto-Palestine, a Palestinian Authority in our land. These are terrorist supporters. These are the people that pay terrorists. These are the people who activate terrorists. This is the places where Hamas is taking over, like in Hebron, where I work every day. And so I don't love that argument because it might be technically true, but it's not good for us to be proud of that, because then people are going to say, hold us to a standard. They're going to say, well, you see, good, you created the Palestinian Authority, so let them live there. That's where you want them to vote. And I don't want them to vote then. I don't want them to take over our land, and I don't want a Palestinian Authority to rule our land, to rule the heartland of our land. And so I have a big problem with this line of reasoning. Yes, there is no apartheid. There is no apartheid. That's true. But the way to move forward is not in granting total equality to Arabs that live in Israel with Israeli citizenship and then to make a whole other group live under the Palestinian Authority. It's not the way to do it. That's what we did in Gaza as well. The way to do it is to rule the whole land. Gaza, Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank. Rule those areas. Give people there decencies, rights, and opportunities. Give them residency. Give them travel papers and freedom of movement in our land. If you have a problem with giving them full citizenship because they might vote you out, fine, give them residency. Jerusalem Arabs have residency. Many Arabs tell me, I want Israeli residency. I understand that you don't want me to vote in your country so it will become an Arab state. I get that. But give me residency, protect me. And we, as sovereigns of this land, have to protect the minorities that live amongst us. We have to give them a Bill of Rights. We have to give them decencies and opportunities and travel papers. We have to give them residency. Some people like the idea of giving them citizenship in Jordan because many of the Palestinians, so-called, quote unquote, are actually Jordanians. And they can be Jordanians once again. So they would vote, whatever that means, because nobody votes in Jordan in a real way anyway. But okay, they can have their state, which is Jordan, is the original Palestinian states, the original Arab state cut out of Jewish land and created to make an Arab state next door. Okay, so that's another option. And there are others. And I wrote an article in the New York Times with 5 alternatives to the two-state solution. But my point to you here is that Natasha is making a true argument, but a dangerous one, because I don't want to hold Israel to the idea of a Palestinian Authority. We've got to dismantle that Palestinian Authority. We've got to be sovereign in Judea and Samaria, have sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. And then, therefore, we have to figure out what to do with the Arabs there. So what do? I recommend that we broaden out the residency model much bigger and take in people who are non-jihadist, pro-Israel folks that have conglomerated themselves in a name called Palestinians right now. But we know that they're just Arabs of the Middle East, but we give them residency here as long as they're non-jihadist. Now, I want to remind you, for all those that are like, oh my God, we got to have total equality immediately. The Middle East has no equalities. There's no equalities in the Middle East. There's no place in the whole Arab world where Jews have anything approaching equal rights, anything approaching equal rights. And remember that there is not one Arab democracy. Like, there's not one Arab country that's a real democracy, not one. So therefore, let's be real. They have their countries and they should live in their countries, and we should live in our country. And those minorities that want to live here, we say welcome. And our Torah even tells us to welcome the sojourner, the proselyte, the person who's living amongst us. Not in total equality. It's our Jewish state. It's a national Jewish state amongst national Arab states. That's the region. The region is a region of tribes, of national states, of peoples, not of democracies that give everybody total equality. Not one state really exists like that, not including even Israel is not really like that. So let's be real and envision the Middle East for what it is, a place of tribes and clans and nations living on their land. In the future, the vision of future for peace is a Jewish state, a strong Jewish state on its Jewish land, surrounded by strong Arab states on their land, working together for Middle East peace. Now, if I say what I just said now to a majority of Arabs, for example, the Saudis and Arabs living here, they would love that option. They'd say, great, you guys, it's your Jewish state, you control this region. Okay, give us residency so we can have a decent life if we want to stay here. If we want to go to Arab countries, we will. If we want to stay here, give us residency. That is a totally equitable plan and works within the confines of the Middle East. Israel has democratic ideals. It has liberal philosophies. But that doesn't mean that we have to give up our country and turn into an Arab country just if we hold on to Judea and Samaria. That's just a mistake. Of course we have to hold on to Judea and Samaria. Of course we have to hold on to Gaza. We have to govern these places and settle these places. This is the heartland of our holy land, of our ancestral land. And so with Arabs, we have to give them opportunities, decencies, and rights through residency and not through full equality, which would undermine the Jewish state. Everybody in this region understands that. Sometimes liberal folks like liberal Jews living in America don't understand that. That's because they're really not Middle Eastern in their thinking. So we got to get back to Middle Eastern thinking and make a plan that's equitable in this region, the Abrahamic region. Let's keep going and listen to Natasha's fourth point.
The libel of genocide.
The libel of genocide.
Reprehensible smear that maliciously accuses the Jews of perpetrating the very crimes committed against them. October 7 was the latest in a long history of genocidal acts by Arabs against Jews in the Middle East. The genocide libel inverts reality. Hamas has spent 16 years embedding its terror infrastructure in mosques, schools, hospitals, and every second house. Its central military tactic is to use civilians as human shields. And in the face of these unprecedented challenges, the IDF has taken greater measures to prevent civilian casualties than any other army in history, far exceeding the requirements of international law. Genocide is the latest modern blood libel that anti-Semites use to justify their anti-Zionism, and it is central to Hamas's war strategy. Today, its only aim is to survive, and to achieve this with international pressure on the Jews to cease their self-defense. Voting for the opposition supports Hamas in this endeavor by legitimizing, aiding, and abetting their anti-Zionist aim to wipe out the Jews from the river to the sea. Don't stand with the terrorists and anti-Semites. Stand on the side of moral integrity. Stand with the proposition.
Okay, so she did a fabulous job, Natasha did, putting in a lot of stuff there. And she basically outs the blood libel of genocide. And here that is really a blood libel, right? That's an actual blood libel because they're saying that the Jews kill a lot of Arabs, as we say in Hebrew, stam, just for nothing, because they like to kill Arabs. That is a blood libel, like it was in Christian times. Like Jews like to kill the Christian kids, God forbid, okay? That's the old blood libel, and here's a new one that we're committing a genocide. So that she's absolutely right. But hidden in her words is another of the blood libels or lies out there, which is that the Hamas and co. and Palestinianism is motivated by some kind of will to get equality, to get liberty, to get more land. And these are all shams. And she said it there, but I want to put a fine point on it, which is behind Palestinianism is jihadism. The will to destroy Israel, replace Israel with a Palestine. And you see it in the maps that they issue. They issue them on keychains and on cups and on shirts and on mirrors and in the maps that they issue, which is that they want to erase all of Israel and make a Palestine there. And so Palestinianism is an erasure of Judaism. And today, the Hamas are real Muslim jihadists, like fundamentalist jihadists. There used to be also secular jihadists, like Yasser Arafat, who was, again, not looking to find liberty for the Arabs or land or anything like that. He wanted to destroy Israel, and his stated goal was the Palestine Liberation Organization, the very name conjured up in 1964, before Israel held down to Judea and Samaria, was to destroy all of Israel. They've always said that. And they were what I call secular jihadists. So they've always said that. So the flip side of what Natasha said is this. She says that the lie out there is the great lie of genocide. And she's right. That is an absolute sham lie. Israel does try not to injure innocent civilians or people or non-combatants. I'm going to call it that. I don't know if they're innocent, because I think that a lot of the civilians have shown that they were part of it. Regular people were housing hostages, and journalists were killing and raping and doing all that stuff. We know that the Gazan society was in large measure supportive of jihadism. So I'm not going to call them innocent, but I'll call them maybe non-combatants. So Israel tries to minimize non-combatant being injured. And indeed, it's true that the combatant to a non-combatant ratio killed is very, very low, maybe 1-to-1. Okay. So Israel really is not doing a genocide. But on the other hand, it is important to understand that the other side, and this is a big libel, a big lie, is not motivated by what they say they're motivated. That's only for, progressive and liberal ears. In their language and in their promotional material, I have some posters right here in my house, in my studio, of what their real internal slogans are, which is the destruction of Israel. And we know that. We know because just read the tweets that Khomeini puts out of Iran. It's to see the destruction of Israel. And he sees Hezbollah in the north and Hamas and the Houthis, and who knows what's going to be in Jordan in the future, as part of his final solution to empower proxies and in time destroy Israel and see it also be destroyed internally through infighting. And that's what they're for. Mehdi Hassan is nothing but a Hamas jihadist apologist who twists facts in order to try to undermine the Jewish state. If you read his tweets, you read what he says, it's clear that he really seeks the destruction of Israel in toto. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this great presentation of British lawyer Natasha Hausdorff. And interestingly enough, I found a newspaper clipping that says that she tears apart anti-Israel claims. This was by a Middle East Monitor, a really anti-Israel outfit. And excuse me. Yeah, no, this one's a good one. I made a mistake. This is the positive one. This is British lawyer Natasha Hausdorff tears apart anti-Israel claims. But I found another newspaper that says Mehdi Hassan debunks Zionist arguments in live debate. So this was a Arutz Sheva Israel National News, and this one was a Middle East Monitor, which is an anti-Israel newspaper, right? A mouthpiece. And they say that Mehdi Hassan debunks Zionist arguments in live debate. But if you watch it, it's pretty clear that he got trounced and destroyed because he was full of lies and it was laid bare. All right, folks, I hope you enjoy Yishai Fleischer TV. Subscribe, be part of it, and I'm sending you blessings and good energy from the land of Israel to wherever you are. Stay tuned, stay strong, stay connected, and shalom. God bless you.